Now then, you're very welcome to another episode of The Racing Room, as news of one racing podcast is thrown in the towel for now. Sadly, you're still stuck with us for the foreseeable future. That said, we are down a man today with Harry Stewart Moore, otherwise preoccupied. I don't know where he is, lads. He's gone pheasant shooting or a bit of croquet this morning. I don't know.
He's probably the only man with a proper job, I'd say. So I think the proper job came to the fore this Monday. So it's
as we regularly have said.
I've made this joke before when he talked about pheasant shooting. I said he's probably peasant shooting rather than pheasant shooting. But,
as we said before, Harry has
shoot the oiks. Shoot the oiks.
Harry has a real job to tend to this morning, so you're stuck with us three, but the lads are in good form. We'll say a few quick hellos. AK, good weekend, a bit of a sweat on the golf last night, I believe, as well. If you want care to divulge.
But yeah, a bit of a sweat on the golf. Shane Lowry, we laid a good bit of Shane Lowry, as you know, roll 16-1. I think he touched 98% win probability with 3 holes to play, and went in the water on 16 and the water on 17. I know a lad who's caddied for him a good bit. He's one of his best pals, actually. And I was texting him, and he couldn't believe it. Absolutely, he just couldn't believe it. It's probably the second time it's happened to him this year as well. So I thought he was really good. He came out in front of the cameras and fronted up afterwards, and was talking about his 4-year-old daughter, never seen him win a tournament and stuff like this. And he was desperate to get it done, and he actually hit an unbelievable shot from the bunker. I think it was on 17 to I think it was to double bogey actually, but it was a brilliant shot. But yeah, it just fell apart a small bit under pressure. Winner Echeverria were probably quite lucky. I think on 17 again, almost found water himself. Went the brave side of the flag. So it was fun and games for us. I'd say there was unfortunately, a few AK Bets customers. I saw a couple of lads that actually cashed out, so they timed the cash out pretty well. It was a tough one. Apart from that, yourself, Rod, just working away bits and pieces. My 6-year-old did his second 5K run with me on Saturday morning, which is a new thing for us lot. So he didn't get he did his first. What do you think of this, Tony? My 6-year-old done his first 5K run in 25 minutes, and then he did it on Saturday with me for the second time the week after, and he was untimed because I couldn't keep up with him. So I finished it. I had a bit of a sore knee. I finished it in like 31 minutes. I was really struggling at the end, and barely like Johnny Deneen at the end. And my little lad was waiting. My 6-year-old was waiting for me, sat on a rock at the finish line. So he was untimed. I'm not sure what time he did, but that's the fun and games in the Kaminskas household this week.
Yeah, my grandson's 5 in July, and the idea of him doing something like that in 18 months' time is just it's off the scale. I mean, I wouldn't do 5K in half an hour in a car. So, it's got a budding star there, mates.
Hopefully. What about you, Ro? What have you been up to?
Working. Saturday, Sunday, but I was down in beautiful Galway on Thursday and Friday night for a couple of nights away. There's no one will tell me that there's a better city to go out and have a drink and a bit of food in than Galway City. So I enjoyed that.
Very good.
And then working again, busy Saturday, very busy, and again yesterday. So good sport though. All good. Tony, all good with you?
Yeah, very quiet. Didn't do a lot of punting. Didn't do a lot of full stop actually. So yeah, fit and raring to go.
You need those weekends sometimes, right? A couple of very small stories before we get into the racing review. One headline in the Mirror caught the eye. 1 in 15 racegoers admit to having romps at top tracks. So I'll just read you out the extract because I actually quite enjoyed the way it was written. So it starts off, and they're off. 1 in 15 racegoers have admitted to having sex at Britain's top racecourses. As horses romp to victory, punters are indulging in romps of their own, with Newbury the worst for racy antics. In all, nearly 1 in 10 race fans confess to either having sex, taking drugs, or fighting. Goodwood is ahead by a nose for drug use. It is also in a photo finish with Cheltenham for fighting. Evidence of bad behaviour is rampant at Royal Ascot this month when police had to break up a drink-fueled mass brawl beside the track as the Queen cheered on horses from the Royal Box. Just the image in my head of those things happening at the right time, at the exact same time. What do we make of this, lads?
The word that came into my head was invades. So yeah,
I
Well,
thought
surely it's only going up.
yeah, it's 1 in 25 when you take out Dave Taylor and Dave O'Reilly. I'd say, but I don't. It's I don't know. I've never seen it. I've probably seen drug taking and a few fights, but tends to be in the UK. If our UK users listeners don't mind me saying, but Ireland's a bit of a different beast. I think it's the fighting doesn't really occur in Ireland. It's more of a jovial atmosphere. I think just horse racing in general, the big festivals, it's totally different to the UK. A lot of UK bookies and punters when they come over, just like the Irish Ring, from anecdotal evidence with me anyway. It's just a totally different vibe. There's nobody coked off the tits trying to start a row at bookmaker joints in Ireland. So it's much more enjoyable. But no, haven't seen any romping for want of a better phrase. So
Um, and we do with a small story for big story for the jockey, but it's from Dundalk on Friday night. So Iqbal Khan, I don't know how familiar people would be with this guy. He's 55-year-old Pakistani rider, took out his license a couple of years ago, retook out his license. I believe he rode a few winners at home, moved to Ireland. I think he's worked for the likes of William Mullins, etc. Took out his license 2 years ago, but he got his fifth whip ban in from just 11 rides. He got it's some going. He was riding his family's owned Lahore the King. The horse finished fourth at Dundalk on Friday evening, and he was pulled in front of the stewards to get his fifth round. I think he took it on the chin and apologised. But this is some going, lads.
yeah. I mean, he got a 22-day ban after that one, but you wouldn't like to stick him on a non-trier, would you? All right, Kosh merchant. He'll lose his license, won't he? 5 and 11.
he surely has to at some stage. I'd say. What were you saying about Kalani before the pod started, Ro?
Yeah, that was. I think that was the first one. That if you can find that somewhere online and watch it, it's actually horrendous. I don't know. He's obviously getting a bit overexcited, but the fact that it's still happening is probably a bit worrying now after 11 rides. So I don't know what they'll eventually do with him there. But 22 days off the track for now. But we'll see what happens, lads. Racing review. Tony Calvin, you want to fly through this?
Yeah. Let me just call it up because we got a lot of topics this week. I put a lot into the racing review. I could have pulled out about 3 or 4 of these and like I said, stuck it into the main topics. But yeah, I'll fly through these. The off-track stuff is quite plentiful. Start off with Des McDonough, trainer of Monksfield, announced his retirement after 54 years. Then we go on to Dubai Duty Free Shergar Cup to break new ground in 2026 as World Pool Day. With a Hong Kong Jockey Club team introduced. So the takeover of Whirlpool continues around the world. Colin Keane's going to have his first Cheltenham ride on Noel Mead's The Morn Rambler in the bumper. MGM are the new sponsors of the Old Coral Cup. You have to think at this late hour it was snapped up on the cheap. And someone just reading on X earlier in the week, the Fox Hunter's still unsponsored as well. So not great news for Cheltenham there.
It's worth saying that MGM are in the same part ownership group as Coral. It's part of them too. So
Are they?
yeah, they are actually. Yeah, unless I've got that totally wrong off the top of my head, they've some kind of deal with M10 for. I don't know what the percentages are or what the deal is specifically, but yeah, they're part of that group. So
Interesting. That's been picked up on if that's correct. The BHA have confirmed the appointment of John Burgess as Director of Integrity and Arja Hall as Director of Regulation. There's a lot of upheaval at the BHA at the moment, as we might come to in a moment. just keeping an eye on the Racing Post site for any updates on Mr. Allen, but we'll come to him in a moment. The 2024 Irish Champion Stakes winner, Economics, died in India. Was known to be a bleeder, so not everyone was happy that he was sent to stud in the first place, but this got a lot of traction on social media that was dampened down by a couple of articles on this, notably by Emma Berry, who put a few facts straight out there. And the Aussie legend, three-time Melbourne Cup winner, Maccabee Diva, died as well last week. So that's rounded off quite a few high-profile horses who died in recent weeks. Japan and UK have horses among the Derby entries, which I imagine the course and the executive will point to the fact that it's a £2 million Derby this year may have had some factor there, but yeah, that's good news for that if it comes to fruition. And finally, Epsom related as well. Plans for 110 new homes near Epsom Racecourse were rejected after objections from the Jockey Club and the local campaigners. So that's the off-track stuff. Quite a lot of stuff in there. On track, I literally really will fly through. Absolutely bizarrely, Dubai Racing went ahead on Saturday night with Sheikh Mohammed present. They abandoned Jebel Ali on Sunday, but just absolutely bizarre that Dubai Racing went ahead. At Kelso, 12s on Protectorat, nearly hit 12s in running after making a horrendous mistake at Kelso. So the money buyers just had a heart attack there, but they got their money in the end. Captain Hugo won the 120 grand Moor Battle Hurdle. I was going to go into a big diatribe about the Doncaster going fast, but it was absolutely ridiculous. If the BHA don't ask questions there, then we should all give up the game, because that wasn't acceptable, and the press really need to take the lead here by interviewing clerks of the courses a bit more forcefully than they did at the weekend. Also at Doncaster, Mighty Bandit was hugely impressive there. That's got an entry next for the 2-miler. And the 4-9 Poke Founder 50 was last of 4 to James de Burley in the Grade 2 at Navan on Saturday. And I don't think there was much going on yesterday. So that's the racing review.
Nice one. Thank you, Tony. Right, let's kick on with the topics. Lads, we've got a good few to go through, but where else to start first? Only Constitution Hill. Obviously, the news came out during the week that he's not going to be taking his chance in the champion hurdle. And with that, perhaps we never see him over hurdles again. It'll be all flat from here for the 9-year-old. So naturally, there is lots of reaction to this. I might just start us off and say I'm probably not as annoyed or frustrated as I thought I might be with this. I just think it's very easy for people to come out and say, just run the horse, you just have to run him, etc. I'm looking at you, AK, and I'm sure you're going to come on and suggest that as well. But I just think the last 4 times we've seen him over hurdles, it just has not been convincing, and I don't think you can run the horse with huge conviction and everything that goes with it, because there is a huge picture at play here, obviously. We'll touch on, I'll let Tony, you can bring in a few quotes from different people which are interesting in a bit, and we also have a very good article, and I'll read out an extract from this article of Brian O'Connor in the Irish Times, and we can move on that. But AK, do you want to start us off just I don't know how annoyed or disappointed you are, or surprised when this news finally came through? I think last week.
I'm not surprised. I think the uncontroversial easy way out would have been massively odds on after the race at Southwell, to be honest with you. One thing to point out, I think, is just that Yard's particular interest in betting patterns in anti-post markets. There's various things going on in the US at the moment around the poly markets of this world and insider trading and stuff like that. It's unsurprising to me that the market on this was, you'd want to know who was doing the backing in the lane right at the end of that market, to be honest with you, similar to what we've seen previously from the Yard in general.
Yeah, we've got a question on that.
Yeah, it's just one of the things that people tend to accept, I think. But if anyone ever dug into it, I'd imagine it'd be fairly obvious what's going on. Constitution Hill, yeah, I think it's a shame. I think only horse racing could put on a race to try and, I don't know, get confidence into some kind of horse, whatever it was sold as, and then literally just alter the course of history. Um, I'd be really interested to see if he got stuffed on the flat and in his next start, what they'd do then, because it's I don't know. I think it's fairly unsatisfactory myself. I don't blame them for taking the easy way. It's not what I do, and and the Cheltenham Festival is probably slightly poorer for it.
Um, them taking the easy way, maybe it's the less difficult way to go, but I'm sure they've got plenty of flack in the last few days for not running the horse or deciding to not run the horse in the champion herd. What do you think, Tony? And if you want to bring in some reaction as well, I know
Yeah,
you have.
I haven't got a problem with it either way, really. Their horse, their decision. I think, as they've admitted, they did have to view the bigger picture for the sport if they'd run the horse and something had happened. So, that's fair enough. And like I said last week, I think the BHA would be the most relieved body in all of this. But for what was kind of like pretty much kind of like flagged, the reaction on social media, and it went on for a day, was absolutely extraordinary. I mean, with some of the stuff that people were coming out with, sensible people and normally quite level-headed. I mean, Dominic King of the Daily Mail, he actually tweeted this: watching Constitution Hill in the Champion Hurdle would have been like watching Alex Honnold's free solo ascent of Taipei 101. One slip could have been fatal. Now, that's a bit over the top language, isn't it, really? Um,
It's also an
and
analogy that's lost on me. Explain what
I, I,
you
didn't,
do.
I, I didn't know anyway. I was going to.
I presume it's somebody took a risk climbing down a mountain or something. Is it? I don't know.
It's Ascent. I mean, was it the guy
Yeah.
who climbed that building live
Oh,
on
okay.
Netflix? It could have been him anyway.
Yeah.
Um, but that's the over top now, and it continued for about a day. And Stuart Barnes, who ex rugby international and writes for the Sunday Times of Rugby now, and he's a big Cheltenham fan, goes all the time. He tweeted on Thursday, the day after. He said, "This Constitution Hill avalanche of bullshit makes me very pleased he won't be at Cheltenham for the Champion Hurdle." Now, I think that summed up quite a few people's feelings because, like I said, it did really drag on. Um, and a lot of people weren't even happy about the fact that Constitution Hill's going to appear in the paddock and parade before the Champion Hurdle itself. A lot of people weren't happy with that. So yeah, it
Oh,
was.
sorry, is that happening? He's going to
Yeah,
show
yeah,
up on the day.
yeah, happening.
Oh, fuck.
So people can say goodbye to him as a hurdler.
Fuck off.
No,
Honestly. Are you
I'm not taking the piss.
absolute delusions of grandeur here.
I'll have to double
Honestly.
check. You've got me doubting myself now.
Right.
I'm
So
sure
that
that's
is
going to happen.
absurd.
I'm going
That
to
is
go and
absolutely
do.
absurd.
That is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Right, I'm going to have to. You've got me doubting myself now. But you carry on about the Brian Connors article in
I'm
the
not
Irish
saying you're
Times.
wrong,
Right,
by
so
the way, but the whole concept is just like embarrassing.
no, I'm certain I haven't made that up. I'll double check though. You carry on.
Couldn't have made that up. You couldn't have made that up. Anyway, just let me bring in the Brian O'Connor article, and you can come back in, Tony. But just Brian O'Connor writes at the Times, a previous press room colleague of me, writes very well. Just kind of surmising the whole situation. And I have a little extract here. So he's talking about another horse. So all night parking is a moderate performer, unlikely ever again to be mentioned in the same paragraph as Constitution Hill. He lines up in a handicap hurdle at lowly Taunton on Thursday with uninspiring form figures of FPF next to his name. That's 2 falls in his last 3 starts. No one is blinking an eye about that. The decision to either run Constitution Hill at Cheltenham or not was always ultimately in the hands of his own owner and trainer, but the narrative around it has consumed the sport both in Ireland and Britain. Some will feel ecstatic that the horse won't be asked to leave the ground again. Others are probably just relieved a decision has been made. Henderson particularly found himself in an unenviable no-win situation. Such a call, though, leaves racing as a whole wide open to charges from its opponents that if it's too risky for the biggest name, then it's surely too risky for thousands of less high-profile runners. The sport must be able to stand over what it does as a fair and reasonable test of horse and rider every day, not just when the spotlight is on it. So, presume, AK, you go along with that sort of sentiment, and just thought it was pretty well written.
Yeah, first off, I think Brian is brilliant. I think he writes unbelievably well. If you haven't read his stuff, I think he just writes generally. Don't agree with him on everything, but he writes unbelievably well. It makes very good cases for stuff. I just don't think. I think we just get caught up in our own little world here and what some auntie says on the TV. I just don't think the majority of people care. I think we're just. I think we're genuinely in the bubble of all bubbles, and I just don't think the general population care that much. In my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to parade. Yeah.
Fucking.
It's as long as the tarmac isn't too firm. So
Yeah, I was going to say, Jesus, it's good job it's not Newbury. Be getting electrocuted or something now. or shagged. Judging by the 1 in 15. Fuck's it. Yeah. Come on.
Right. Okay. Well, tune in to Cheltenham to see Constitution Hill walk around the parade ring before the Champion Hurdle. We've heard it all now. Let's move it on, and we'll. I'm not sure how much we can say about this Lord Elgin tenure potentially coming to a conclusion. Ridiculously, if that was the case, I'm sure we'll hear more about this in the coming days. But what are you hearing here, Tony, if anything, with regards to Lord Allen's tenure and what's actually going to happen?
I think we're going to hear about it in the next. Well, it sounds like Nick Luck's been talking like it's imminent for about the last couple of weeks, and Lee Mottershead wrote an article in the Racing Post last night in today's paper that basically said it's a done deal. It's just a matter of when it's announced and how the BHE comms team are going to deal with it. Because as we've been saying ourselves on this podcast for the last few weeks, it's disastrous for the governance of the sport. If someone who was wielding in a very triumphal manner, he was, glittering CV, he was going to change the way racing operates, he was going to unite, he was going to put them on a more commercial footing. And basically he's been invisible, done nothing apart from a very underwhelming Jim Crap Q&A with Lydia Hislop. It just makes the sport look ungovernable. So yeah, it's depressing stuff.
Absolutely. Constitution Hill will have lasted longer in the fighting fifth than this tenure, if this is the case.
Do you think
genuinely depressing?
Do you think this could be old news? This could be wrong by the time this podcast comes. But given the way that he was announced and then delayed and deferred and then joined, is it massive odds on that he does this in Cheltenham week? Because that's what I'd be thinking. I'd be guessing that this news breaks Cheltenham week, just for maximum impact, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. If he thinks he's been really fucked around, he might just announce it on the Tuesday morning of Cheltenham.
Detonate it off on Tuesday morning, and you'd just be worried about which toothless, fangless sap takes the job after him. To be honest with you, because it's just an absolute joke of a position, isn't it? If they can't do anything, if they can't change anything, what's the point?
Yeah. I would imagine they can't have an acting CEO, in perpetuity. So they're going to have to. I imagine they'll might just give Dunshay the job for on a permanent basis. But I'm not sure you can give him a job on a permanent basis, because I think the chairman has to ratify that, and you haven't got a chairman. But anyway, it's just an absolute mess, isn't it?
Yeah. We'll see what happens. Move on to the latest on ammo. Bring back ammo racing onto the podcast. One of our favourite subjects. So give a nod to Peter Scargill's piece in the Racing Post, which excellent work here. And I'll divide this into two. I'll bring you in, AK, after the first segment. So, U.S. asset management firm Apollo Global Management has increased the security on its loan to Kia Drapchin's Sport Invest Holdings a little over 14 months after lending the owner £40 million. The initial loan, created in October 2024, was secured against a range of AMO racing assets in Britain and the US, including property and bank accounts, according to the original documents filed with Companies House. That has been expanded under the new arrangement. Supplemental security agreement was filed with Companies House this month, adding to the previous arrangement by including intellectual property rights as well as real property rights. Can you can you explain this to us in layman's terms? What's actually what's happening here?
I think this is one of those podcasts where you need bloody Harry Stewart Moore, to be honest with you. But I can give you what I roughly think and try not to get sued on the back of it. Intellectual property rights, expanding the agreement to include intellectual property rights. Those intellectual property rights are worth zero, so there's no point doing that. You might get a monkey for the purple silks or something like that, but that's worth nothing. I'd imagine this just adds. Did they buy, off the top of my head, Freemason Lodge? Did they, or something?
Yeah.
I presume it's chucking that in there as well. For me, mathematically and economically, even, this just looks like an absolute house of cards to me. An absolute house of cards, and I think this just ends with Apollo taking whatever pennies on the dollar they can get at the end of it, to be honest with you. I think this is, if they succeed, fair play to them, but I think the risk reward ratio here is just wrong for me. I think it makes no sense whatsoever. So let's see what happens. Good luck to them as usual. But I wouldn't.
The original loan was at 10.5%, wasn't it?
Yeah, 10, was it 10.75 or 10.25 or something? Yeah.
So obviously they presumably up that massively. So I mean, a lot of the buying they've been doing at the sales has been about in the last, say, 2 years or so. So it's got to the point whereby they're going to need, and they've been paying a lot of money for horses that have disappointed first time out, paying millions for horses that were running down the field, etc. They're going to need some big winners, and they're going to need, probably going to have to get a stallion out the other end to actually kind of like make this make economic sense. And that's not only true of ammo; it's true for any other owners who throw their kind of money at the sport.
Yeah, I think the difference is that the other owners that do it are doing it with their own money, or the citizens' money. This is borrowed money, like we said, at 10.25 or 10.75%. It's probably not started great. How long's the long game here? Like, it's at what point I know Apollo are investing, inverted commas, money all over the place into various sports and various enterprises, and this just seems to be one of them. But I'd be unbelievably negative on this. I think there's some amount of luck needs to happen to turn this ship around, I'd say.
Yeah, obviously we don't know. We don't know because he's got a lot of high-profile partners, very rich partners as well as come in with some of his horses. But even so, if you're doing everyone, it's well known, how, a lot, what we said last week when we're talking about owners, how much it costs to have a horse in training. A lot of people just write the cost off, but if you're writing the cost off and you borrowed at 10% plus to actually get the money in order to do that, it's hard to make it make sense, isn't it?
I think also when I look at accounts like this, I don't know how you feel about it. When I see assets of 93 million sterling, I always think those numbers are just absolute horseshit, to be honest with you. Like, 93 million says who? Like, if this goes belly up and you have to fire sale, are they worth 93 million in the first place? I'd imagine not. That's probably a link to a lot of what's been paid for them, I'd imagine. And then when you're fire selling, everyone knows you're fire selling, and if you're fire selling nearly 9 figures worth of stuff, you're not getting full market value. Whether that 93 million is market value anyway is another thing, but
Yeah.
you just don't get market value in a fire sale anyway. So
Look, we don't know. We should say we don't know.
we don't
We know
know.
the
We're
actual figures
speculating.
we know the figures through Company's House, but we don't know, the
Mm.
detail of it. We don't know, who's securing the loans, the deals. Kia Joorabchian is probably a very, very rich man in his own right, and um, we like I said, we don't know the details involved, and they could come out of this smiling if their big money purchases come to fruition in the next year or so. But from what Peter Scargill was outlined in the figures from Company's House, um, you would worry about their odds of succeeding, wouldn't you?
I think they've got very little
The,
chance. Yeah.
the rest of the piece kind of goes into figures and stuff. You can check it out on the Racing Post. On bog you down with it now, I suppose. But you kind of mentioned it there, lads, and I was just trying to think as well. What needs to happen for Ammo to be a success, to for this risk to pay off, I guess. And
They
yeah, I
have
think
to they have to get a stallion. I mean, they've been
probably thinking more than one one
This is
top class guy.
that's exactly what I was thinking. Is get at what point does the tipping point come where you need more than one, and then you need three,
they
and then you need four? Like this is just
yeah they've been buying a lot of mares and stuff. So if they're going to have their own kind of like in-house operation, they've got all the mares, and mares don't have to kind of like win races in order to send it to stallions. As long as they've got the pedigree, they got some residual value. But if you're doing it all in-house, you're going to have a stallion and a stallion worth its salt. Like I said, and maybe even more than one. So it's a fair old risk. But like I said, if
It's,
there's no
he,
suggestion that of any impropriety, etc. And
no. I don't think anyone's suggesting that. We're just saying that the economics of the whole situation are bizarre, and when you add that on top of lending at over 10%, it's even more bizarre.
yeah,
and it's not a quick fix at all. It doesn't seem like they're on the absolute right track at the moment. So this could be, if it is even going to happen, and that's a big if, it could be 5 to 10 years down the line before they see anything come true. Anyway, we leave that one there and go on to a story about record prize money in Britain in 2025 as a 3.5% rise produces a total of £194.7 million. And the Levy board has budgeted to contribute 77.13 million to prize money in 2026. So it's a 4.4 million, a 6% increase on the initial plan of 72.71 million in 2025. Tony, you can start us off here.
yeah. First off, the levy board have done absolute wonders to get those figures and increases. And Alan Del Monte actually texted me last week to alert me to the fact and said, positive news story there for you.
Oh
I'm
God, only in my
pretty sure he
opinion.
was taking the piss, but no, a lot of people, um, you know, everyone in racing um, would be kind of like very, very positive about Alan as an operator, and a lot of people have said that he wouldn't look out of place heading up the BHA, etc. But no, he's doing a brilliant job at the levy board. But obviously that's positive news, and they obviously a very well managed organisation, especially to post those figures in the current climate. But so that was the positive news, but we didn't have to wait long for the bad news about the dark the betting figures. The total turnover on betting year on year dropped by 4.3%, which means a 10.3% has been wiped off Ratings betting balance sheets since 2023, quote unquote. And both codes, flat and jump, suffered a relapse in the competitiveness about field size after field sizes rose in 2024, with the average number of runners on the flat down to 8.9 from 9.14, while the means jump field fell back from 8.49 to 7.84. Now, when you're considering the foal numbers are declining, there's no sign of race fixtures being cold. That is a very, very worrying trajectory when you've got, how betting can continue to, you know, post those kind of levy figures while what all the other metrics are very, very worrying. I don't know. I think Anthony said that, many times before, that the levy is over delivering at the moment, but at some point you worry.
Yeah, but I think it's
You have to
important to
worry.
point out. Sorry, I know we met Alan at York, and lovely fella,
Yeah.
nice guy, knows what he's doing. Um, it's probably important to point out that Alan doesn't generate the money for the levy. He directs where it goes, doesn't he? Like, he's not bringing in money. It's bookmakers' profits where the levy comes from. Um, so he's not bringing in anything, and he's just. My understanding is his job is just to direct where the spend goes. Now, the reason the levy's going up is because punters are losing more money as a percentage of what's coming in. Like, what I would say is the pie is shrinking, which is detrimental. And I think these numbers on the face of it, like, you can say it's a positive story, more prize money, etc. But the underlying theme here is there are less people betting on horse racing, and those less people betting on horse racing are losing more money. And that's because margins are increasing, punters are losing quicker. For the long-term sustainability of the sport, it's really, really bad, in my opinion. Where the money goes that you bring in is fine in the short term, but the fundamentals are really, really bad here, and they're getting worse and worse. And there's a tipping point that comes where you offer such bad value that people just stop betting on the sport. And that's the trajectory we're going in. Like, you're getting the short term boost of slightly more money to spend how you want, but fundamentally it's on its arse and it's getting worse. And people need to realize that. Like, the short term boost of prize money is great, but you're boosting it with the money you're taking off punters at a higher rate, and those punters are getting less and less. Your punters are going down, your take's going down, and at some point this number. Sorry, I'm trying to do it for the camera here. Like, your amount of punters are going down, your levy's going up because there's more margin. Those people are losing it, and at some point this number starts going really down, collapsing down with the thing. And you just have to be unbelievably careful about what we're triumphing as a good story here, because less punters losing more money and the trajectory continuing that way is really, really bad for British racing. So there's my Debbie Downer take on things. Like,
There you go, Alan.
it's not great.
We could make a negative out of any positive
No,
story.
but like, it's not his fault as well. His job is the money that's collected, to spend it efficiently and as best as he can. And he might be doing a brilliant job with that. I don't know the intricacies of that at all. But that is not linked to the money that comes in.
Yeah,
That's
I
from
take that
external.
point, but
Yeah.
a lot of people looking at the levy figures will say he does hold, a lot of back in reserve for rainy days, and what you're saying is those rainy days are, if not imminent, they are forthcoming.
Yeah.
It goes across everything we've said on the podcast, or you guys have said in the thing that we've been always talking about this. So that something like this isn't sustainable in the long run. So look, we'll see. At least
I think the
we'll,
situation we need to get to as an industry is the exact opposite of what we've got now. We need less racing, we need more people betting on it, and the margins to be smaller so the recycling of money is greater. That's what we need to get to. And the trajectory is the exact opposite of all that stuff, which is what concerns me.
I think Lord Adam's going to get it all sorted anyway. So
Hey, Lord Adam Watch, better refresh.
right, we'll move on to our next topic. As a trainer, John Butler barred from having runners by the BHA following a stable inspection. So John Butler has been blocked from having runners by the BHA after stable inspection found inadequate facilities at his Newmarket yard. This is a story in the Racing Post. Butler, 53 years of age, had 6 horses that were due to run on Wednesday and Thursday declared as non-runners within a minute of each other on Wednesday morning, while the trainers' entries for races on Friday and Saturday were not confirmed despite jockeys being assigned to them. However, no updated reason has been given for the horses being withdrawn. So can you tell us anything of what's happened here, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, presumably the inspection last week, if it found inadequate stabling for horses, I'd imagine the BHA have said, well, I don't know, I'm only guessing. I imagine the BHA have said to him, get it sorted, or otherwise you're not going to have any runners for the foreseeable future. Now, I had a look this morning. His last runner was on February the 24th, but he has got entries for Wednesday and Thursday this week. So this could have been sorted. Otherwise, they might have blocked him from having the entries. So it could well have been rectified by now. But it must have been quite an extreme situation whereby they weren't happy with how the horses were being looked after and stable for them to just pull the plug on the entries. It's quite a worrying one presumably it has welfare implications. And obviously they're very hot on that at the moment, but other than that, it's still quite a murky story. The BHA said they're not commenting.
Yeah, you'd imagine the trainer would be in his interest after things settle down to come out and explain what the actual situation here, because a vacuum of information probably not going to be ideal for him from a stable PR point of view. But we'll see if that does develop. We'll move on to another kind of individual story with a horse disqualified from 2 wins a year apart after separate positives for different trainers. So, a horse who won handicaps almost a year apart for different trainers has been disqualified from both races after testing positive for prohibitive substances on each occasion. The rulings published on Tuesday by the Irish Horse Racing Regulatory Board Referrals Committee relate to victories for Art of Unity at Bellewstown on October 2025 and at the Curragh 12 months earlier. I don't know much about this. You have me down for this, Tony, and
it's just extraordinary that the same horse for different trainers
yeah,
has got prohibited substances, different prohibited substances. So we're at a loss here, really. I mean, Richie Forrestal did a very good comment piece on this. He subsequently put a link to ongoing investigations for prohibited substances. So go and have a look at Richie Forrestal's timeline. But on the face of it, it's kind of like, it's Dick Francis stuff, isn't it? It's just absolutely bizarre. But like I said, go and read Richie Forrestal's piece and go have a look at the link he posted on his X account, which is, we praise him a lot. I think we had a pop at him about something he wrote a couple of weeks ago that we didn't agree with. But in the main, he's the top man for stuff like this. So yeah, go and check out Forrestal's scribblings.
Chris, you do a much better job at explaining the situation there than I will. So we'll move on to
It
our
was
next.
quite a lengthy article as well, so you need to go and read it.
Yeah, plenty of detail there in the Racing Post. BGC chief warns government gambling industry is at a crossroads with black market its biggest threat. This being Black Market Part 987, which times we've discussed. AK, do you want to come in again for your 987th comment on this?
Well, yeah, my opinion is just still the same, mate. To be honest, it's I think the comments from Andrew Rhodes 3 years ago of it not being an issue look slightly what's the opposite of prophetic? Pathetic? I don't know.
I knew you were going to say
It's
that.
probably not the best prediction, is it? In fairness, he's probably got that one wrong. Um, anyone who's got their ear to the ground knows the story, I'd say, with what's going on with the black market and how they're targeting UK and Irish customers. If I was the UKGC, I'd be swarming all over the corporate boxes at Cheltenham next week, and seeing who's paying to put people in corporate tents. Because it's not me, because I don't have any money left. So it's yeah, it is what it is. Like it's an unbelievable threat. I listened to that Baroness Twycross, whatever she's called, speech, the 6-minute speech at the BGC conference there the other day. Like, I'd imagine that the black market collectively isn't shaking in its boots, to be honest with you, at the 26 million quid being given to tackle it over 3 years, by the way, that 26 million. When you've got operators, I won't give the names of them now, but you've got big black market operators. They've literally got that much money. They're buying casino providers and buying companies in their supply chain at the moment. There's a big casino provider at the moment that's been bought by an unlicensed bookmaker in the UK. Probably won't go into it too much before I get Harry's Harry's legal advice on it before I comment on it much. But they're absolutely awash with money, and they're buying up various items in the supply chain.
What kind of money are we talking about here? Would just not in the specifics, but if you were buying up, these things in the food chain, are we talking tens of millions, hundreds of millions?
Yeah. Oh, they sound small, like more than what the bloody budget is for 3 years anyway, and that's just one operator in a sea of probably tens of thousands of operators. It just doesn't touch the sides. UK, everything about the UK market at the moment, UK and Irish market, is just more regulation. It's more fees, increase the fees to tackle this. I'd be on the side of it's going to be a struggle, and the people that are awash with cash must be. I don't think they're in any way concerned.
Okay, we'll leave that one there, and we'll leave the black market there for another week,
while, hopefully.
Move on to our next topic, which is in-play betting for Irish horse racing, introduced to major bookmakers as a need to keep pace with innovation has been stressed. So Horse Racing Ireland Chief Executive Suzanne Eade described the introduction of in-play betting on Irish racing with major bookmakers as a positive step towards the sport innovating its betting offerings using GPS data collected by Course Track. Firms including Entain's, Ladbrokes and Coral Sportsbooks, William Hill and BV Group's 5 brands, including Bet Victor, will now offer in-play betting with real-time pricing on Irish racing. Tony, why don't you kick us off here? How much of a positive step is this?
I can't see how it's going to work. I mean, it's not real time, is it? Clearly. I mean, some bookmakers do it on, some fixed odds bookmakers do it on in-running betting now, don't they? In the UK. But with the inevitable delays, even with reasonably raw pictures, I mean, there's going to be the delay, and as we know, a tenth of a second in a horse race is everything. I mean, I think bookmakers pull the betting towards the end of a race for obvious reasons. Is there any demand for fixed odds in running betting? I can't see it. And at a time where exchange in running betting is getting considerably less, that might be one of the reasons behind it. But I can't see how there's any demand for it, and I think the actual delivery is flawed. GPS trackers in saddle cloths or not. I can't see this. I can't see, as a punter, I wouldn't go anywhere near it.
I think,
and obviously it's not only the real time prices. It's going to be prices with a considerable margin added on as well, surely.
Yeah, well, I think I couldn't think of anything worse, to be honest with you. Irish racing. Well, within play, you've obviously got the delays. So if you're watching this at home or you're watching on your phone, you're probably 10, 15, 20 seconds behind. So you've got all the delays. Irish racing in particular, maiden hurdles and bits and pieces, you've probably got a couple of horses towards the front and a million horses towards the back, and that's just the nature of it. When you're talking about the margin that'd have to be involved here, it'd be unbelievably high margin. I couldn't think of anything that a fixed odds betting provider would provide. I don't know how they couldn't do this without making it exceptionally high margin. Then you've got the latency. Then you've got the delays and bet delays when you try and place a bet. When you talk about demand, I'd say there's no demand for it at all. It's something that sounds good, but in reality, this will be absolute nothingness, in my opinion. Absolutely nothing. So see how it goes. Best of luck to them.
Luck to him. What's going on at Chelmsford? We will ask next. So, officials at Chelmsford Racecourse said their ability to stage meetings at the track will be unaffected despite a move by its tenant, Great Lees Estates, to renew a court motion that could be a precursor to the appointment of an administrator. Great Lees Estates, which is described as a tenant of the racecourse in a statement issued on behalf of Chelmsford, filed a motion of intent to appoint an administrator on February 16th, which is now renewed until March 13th to allow more time for discussions with creditors. A spokesman for the racecourse said, Great Lees Estates is a tenant at Chelmsford City Racecourse. The ownership of the racecourse is entirely separate. All business operations will continue as normal. Scheduled racing fixtures and all other events at Chelmsford, including weddings and corporate bookings, are unaffected and will continue to be unaffected. Tony, so what's happening here?
Again, another murky picture for racing, where the devil will be, in the detail. So we don't really know. I mean, having read that article and asked around, I don't think anybody really truly knows what is going on. I mean, we touched upon Cheltenham a couple of months back. I mean, when I was told in late July via WhatsApp, they said you want to look out for Chelmsford because there's a financial story brewing there, and obviously it did come up a couple of months ago, and obviously this is the latest. This is the latest update. You just have to take the course at their word that it's not affected. There's no short-term problems, but clearly something's going on financially. Quite what? It's hard to ascertain, isn't it?
Yeah. Moving on to this Nottingham Forest story that you spotted, AK. The directors are going to leave the club. Did you see something interesting on this?
I don't know how if it slipped under the radar elsewhere. It's just I follow Kieran Maguire. I've spoken to Kieran a few times, just the Price of Football podcast guy, and I just saw that he tweeted. It probably slips under the radar just in general, even if you follow Kieran. He just said Nottingham Forest have removed 3 directors that were only appointed in October. So 3.5 months, I think, later, or 4 months later. And I just noticed one of them was Michael Duggar, who just recently left his post as chairman or whatever it was of the BGC. So he was appointed. I think he might be a Forest fan. He was appointed to the board at Forest in October, but has now left, along with 2 others that were appointed at the same time. So I don't know what you can read into that. Probably not much, given that owner seems to be, he's an ammo investor anyway. So judgment is off the charts. I don't know what you can read into that, but I just thought it was interesting. Might have slipped under the radar.
And let's do that chargeback story that we saw as well. It was, I think, it was done on Sky News. So it's an epidemic was the headline. Britain's using refund trick to steal, and honest customers will pay for it. What is the story here, AK, or what's going on? And you seen any effect ourselves?
Yeah,
Or
it's just interesting. I thought this was interesting. It was on Sky News. They were talking about shopkeepers and restaurants and people coming in, using services, paying on the card, and then chargebacking and trying to get the money back off the restaurant. Chargebacking is something that affects online bookmakers. We've had very sporadic, intermittent, small issues with it. From an AK Bets perspective, we challenge every single one of them, and every single one of them we've won. Customers in the end just put their own bank accounts at risk for making frivolous chargebacks, basically. So it's not cost us anything from an AK Bets perspective, apart from time dealing with the bank, showing device, IP address, the fact that the customers entered their own card details and their own CCV number, and it's a genuine transaction and it shouldn't be processed as a chargeback. Takes about a month. We win the case. Punters' bank account comes in jeopardy for various reasons. What I'd like to see on stuff like chargebacks, I appreciate I'm in a small minority here as an operator, but what I'd like to see from a chargeback perspective and a persistent late bet perspective is more assistance from the UKGC and some kind of thing in place where we have GamStop and stuff like that for problem gamblers. We should probably have a list for fellas doing fraudulent stuff as well, and getting them banned from the market as well to protect them.
What is a chargeback?
Chargeback, you just ring your bank and just say, I didn't do that. I didn't do that transaction. That wasn't me. Somebody else did it. Very easy from a bookmaker to defend. And just show the IP, the device, betting patterns if you need to. The fact that they use their own card and their own CCTV and their own bloody biometrics of they use Face ID or something like that. It's very, very easy to go, well, they did do that. Customer doesn't get the money back. It takes about a month for the funds then for the bookmaker to clear. And obviously your bank then knows what you're at, basically, and you put your own bank account in risk. I'd like to see more assistance from the UKGC and stuff like that, because chargebacks are a thing. Like I say, it's not cost us anything financially, it costs us time. And the persistent people that are doing chargeback stuff and late bets and stuff like that, I think there should be some operator protection there where we can get these people banned from the UK gambling market, basically.
Yeah, fair enough. We do this story. I was going to leave this out, but we were probably in reasonably good time, and I sent it on to you guys during the week. I listened to a podcast called the Indo Sport Podcast, and they have a bits and bobs podcast that they put out. It's basically just chat about stuff amongst themselves, without going into one particular sport. They had an emailer in from a guy who said, just as an anecdotal story, said he was away with his wife and kids on a city break somewhere, and I think the wife was going to go off and do something, and the husband decided, well, I'll take the kids out to the races for a couple of hours. And to which the wife replied, absolutely no way you take them to the races. I don't want the kids being brought up with any sort of gambling influence at all. So she sounds like good fun, but I'd imagine there are plenty of people who probably share her views as it is now. And anyway, so it led on to a discussion amongst the guys on the podcast. And the presenter, Joe Malloy, is great. He's actually excellent at what he does. But he often, I notice myself, when he's reading out stories, like say they're previewing the Masters or something, he'll read out the odds. But he'll often apologise before he reads out the odds. He'll say, look, sorry, I know a lot of people don't appreciate this, reading out the odds. We get emails in after it's, suggesting you shouldn't be doing that, problem gamblers, etc. And then on the other hand, he actually explained later in the podcast, we get other people on the other side going, don't be so ridiculous, reading out the odds is fine, etc. But I just thought the discussion they had was quite interesting. They kind of surmised that it's very media driven, this kind of attitude, societal attitude towards gambling these days, that it'll be people are afraid to say it on a podcast or on television, but then they'll go finish the podcast, go down to the cafe or whatever, and people are talking about it freely, about gambling and stuff, whatever, obviously, naturally enough. So I don't know if you guys caught the podcast or you want to jump in there on any of that, but just thought it was interesting what was discussed.
Is the podcast quite popular?
Very popular, yeah.
I guess it's just a reflection of the way bookmaking and betting is viewed now. It's an increasingly easy target for people, isn't it? I mean, it's a target.
Grubby was how they kind of described it in the general societal how gambling has become a grubby word or to be associated with it, etc.
Yeah, I would have thought it would be more prevalent in the UK than in Ireland, so that does surprise me.
Yeah,
if that attitude is particularly prevalent over there. If it is prevalent in Ireland, then I think betting and bookmaking really have got a problem.
the wife probably jumped off her moral high horse to get her nails done at some Chinese nail salon when she was going into it. Like, people's moral lines wind me up, like just bore up.
Yeah.
That.
The wife in question, Mrs. Kaminskas, said, I disapprove of the way he earns his money, but I'm quite happy to spend it. Yeah.
Has anybody ever looked at someone's nails and gone, Jesus, your nails are unbelievable? Like, what a waste of money that is. What an absolute swizz of a game that is.
You're not going to get any money back off the nails, are you?
Jesus, look at your eyelashes. They're off the charts. No interest. Don't care.
This is why we're so well groomed. We'd rather punt it than spend a bit of money on some face cream.
Okay, let's do questions. We have one, two, three, four, five, and I'll start with Stuart. Stuart Acaster. Betfair told us about Constitution Hill decision before Seven Barrows did. Is this just an accepted part of the game that connections from that yard in particular are allowed to make a few quid before everyone else gets the news? Officially, AK, you kind of mentioned this already. I don't know if you want to come in again here on how that whole way played out, but this is a regular occurrence.
I think the late movement in anti-post markets from Seven Barrels is has 100% record. I'd say. Yeah, I don't think anyone cares enough about it to look into it, I suppose. But it's mad that that happens, and the yard sponsored by a bookmaker, etc. I think it probably isn't ideal.
It's
Surely it would
it's
be,
com
as you say, it would be easy to track, wouldn't it? Like
yeah,
you did just
yeah.
find the people who made these bets before the news has officially come out, and you investigate those accounts now.
I was tracking that market. There was two things going on. There was the Betfair will Constitutional Hill run in the race, and obviously there was movement on the Champion Hurdle market itself as well. Uh, and so this was flagged up well over an hour, before the official announcement was made. Um, so yeah, I mean, a few years ago, I mean, that would have been a big kind of like betting story from the Racing Post, etc. And people like Greg Wood in the Guardian would have maybe even kind of like led with that angle. The market told us what was going to happen, and this was a big announcement. The superstar of the sport not going to run at the biggest betting event of the year, and it was like it was a front run by what are very illiquid markets. So it's very easy for that the Will Constitution Hill run in the Champion Hurdle market was incredibly light, so it was easy to move. But even so, it doesn't take away your main point is that someone clearly knew and benefited from that information before it was publicly announced. And like I said, in the old days, when the Racing Post had a bit of vim and vigor about them, about pursuing betting stories, they would have gone after that. And like I said, other papers like the Guardian would have followed suit. But I think there's just a lazy acceptance now that this goes on. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, there are other stables, other very big stables, where the market flags up an announcement days ahead. That what's going to happen. So this is not an isolated instance of one stable. I think, but I think people just like accept the fact that the market's going to tell you days ahead of a factor file running in the Gold Cup rather than Ryanair, for example, or vice versa, and
Yeah. It's a,
Lottie Mouth, etc. And it's kind of like it's quite sad, but I think people just shrug their shoulders now and say, look, it goes on. Well, only two people, only two sets of two kind of like operations can actually you know, enforce this is obviously the betting exchange. The memorandum of understanding is a two-way street. They can volunteer that information to the BHA, and the BHA can request details of, full betting details of various markets. I think the monies involved on exchange markets now are so minimal that they just don't think it's worth their time and effort. And also, they can request the BHA can request of other betting operators, fixed odds betting operators, what's gone on in their markets. Because if you knew a horse that was going to potentially taking out 30% of the market at that given time is not running, and then obviously you can back other horses in that race and profit indirectly there. So, but I don't think anybody's bothered anymore, which is quite sad.
yeah. I thought it was a stupid market, to be honest with you. We said it was going to be very light because it was like one person has the answer or two people have the answer and nobody else has the answer. Nobody's going to speculate on something where other people have the real answer, I suppose. Um, yeah, to be honest, I've less concern with it from an anti-post racing point of view. It's but it is. I think they previously tried to police it, didn't they? There was one case, something to do with a Willie Mullins horse that failed at vet before Cheltenham from memory, and it was for like a grand or 1,500 quid. Somebody got out of it, and there was an investigation, and just nothing came of it.
Faheen,
Might have
that
been
year,
something like that. Yeah,
someone in the stable had placed a bet on Latham or
I can't
something.
remember. I can't remember anyway, but there was something. Uh, just accepted, isn't it? It's you can take away and trade that stuff with the insider info, I suppose, and just generally.
Yeah. Alex is asking if 25% of the races held in Britain were cut, how much would percentage be added to overround to make up for the losses to bookmakers? Would it be of interest to bookmakers to cut races, AK?
Uh, Probably just slightly mixing up the levers there, Alex, I'd say. If races were cut in the UK, the intention, I suppose, would be to increase turnover and interest on the other races. It's not a case of increasing overend on the races that are left. Like that wouldn't make too much
The
sense.
quality would outweigh quantity. You kind of suggested that.
Yeah, and then bookmakers would probably fill the gaps with more foreign racing, perhaps, but then that would doesn't really have an impact on too much impact on UK racing. I'd imagine doesn't you're not increasing margins because there are less races. That's not what you do.
Craig's asking, you've covered restrictions to debt, but I saw a tweet about someone being refused a miserly £40 on the Supreme Fav. Does the panel not agree that bookies have their licenses rescinded? I'm guessing it means in this case, uh, biggest betting week of the year in an ultra competitive race. This is despicable. I love betting on horses, but if the government ever closes down betting altogether, then I'll shed no tears. They're only really they're only really happy with fruit machine degens. AK, do you want to answer back to Craig there?
Yeah, I think from a state factoring point of view, you get like some firms operate differently. We probably operate differently from other firms. If somebody's at something that the bookmaker doesn't like, they can sometimes change what is essentially the stake factor for that account rather than by individual sport. So if somebody's done something, whatever it may be, been really smart, placed late bets, whatever the reason is, if you nuke the account from a stake factor point of view, the famous UK facing bookmaker would be the your account message in the inbox. Tend to have every sport nuked. Then I think you can come on and go, I tried to back England for the World Cup and they wouldn't let me have a bet. Would they take the bet individually on England to win the World Cup? Yeah, they would. But there's just a blanket restriction has been applied to the account. So I think you can get that. We probably need bookmakers in general probably just need a little bit more nuance, and we don't want this, but this kind of behaviour. But yeah, we'll take this sort of thing. And I think 40 quid on the Supreme Fav is more than fair to expect that to be placed.
Come on over to AK Bets, Craig. We'll take care of you.
I think he was a bits and bobs emailer in on your show last week.
Best price, the Supreme Fav, aren't you, Ron?
Very much so.
What price is it? 5 to 2?
I think that's gone.
All right.
12 to 5 maybe or something. 23 to 10. Yeah.
Tell it like it is. Would it be damaging at all for racing's image if I know the way you're thinking where to win the Gold Cup, given his runs this season? This is we've discussed this, definitely discussed this once or twice this season regarding I know the way you're thinking to form and how he's ran. Would it be damaging to racing? I don't know. Wouldn't be damaging to me anyway, since I've bet him since after Christmas there. But I don't know. I think for most people in racing to try and work this out, it's just another piece of the puzzle that you.
Did you get the 16s, Ron?
I got the 16s, but I was topping up after I backed them at 6-1 after Christmas as well. So
The only
know what
reason
you
you're
mean.
backing it is because Cromwell horses and Henry de Bromhead horses do tend to grow a leg when it comes to the Cheltenham Festival. I think it's quite. I think it's quite a cynical reason, if you're being honest, why you back the horse.
Tell me this, Tony. What price would you make him to go fav?
Um, what's that? Is that race about 6 to 1? See, if you got no factor
Five
five,
grand, maybe. Five, yeah.
he's not a massive price, is he?
I don't think
If he
he's
comes
worth
back,
to go five.
if he comes back to the form of he's winning that race last year, he's the one to beat.
Mm.
And if factor file doesn't go, it goes to Ryanair. It underlines the fact that JP McManus is very happy with, I know the way you're thinking in these other potential horses in that race. So yeah, I wouldn't go massive price
I think he could go five for sure.
after Ronan's pressed up.
Yeah.
I get the premise of the question. I
But
don't
don't
think
go
it's
there
too.
legally.
Yeah. Last question from David Brown, our weekly questioner. Gary Wiltshire reckons a few modern layers have gone a bit soft and just follow the machine and hide behind the numbers. And sorry, if AK, if he was pointing at anyone, would it be you, or are you still a bookmaker with a pulse?
Oh, it's gas. Uh, Gone a bit soft and just follow the machine. Jeez, every time I see Gary, he's sat on the bloody chair looking at the machine.
He was he was on he was on that Saturday morning Sky Sports Racing betting show. He's very good value, isn't he?
He is
Very.
brilliant. He is.
He sat there and said, "Oh yeah." There was an old picture of him with Dave Smith, and he said, "Yeah, that was when I was 37 stone." And he was sitting on the sofa. I thought, "You ain't far off that now again,
Yeah,
mate.
he's
I mean,
quite a bit
you
heavy.
get your money back on that sleeve, gastric sleeve." But yeah, he's brilliant value. He is
Yeah, he
brilliant
is
value.
brilliant value. Yeah,
And
he's
he was. They had a question on about this, so it's kind of like a question about a question, and he was going on about this. Yeah.
some of the Scottish boys in the ring. I think he mentioned Scottish bookmakers. I think I've seen the clip, and he references Scotland and how hard they bet. And I'm telling you now, they've no concept of each way and mathematics. Some of them, because they bet absolute lights out. Like we were at Cheltenham last year. After time in here now, but I bet Golden Ace in the ring at 66s each way. And I think I did
Oh,
it only with Scottish bookmakers. Um, I don't know what the story was, but there were 66s anyway. So, um, and got a few quid on. Some of them didn't pay me till the Friday, but I got a few, got a few quid on, and they paid. So I think the Scottish lads, I think it's famous up in Ayr and Perth and a few other places that the ring is. So the lads betting to 1% a runner, no matter what the each way shape is, and just betting absolute lights out. So, um, yeah, it's mad. Probably, I don't know if that's carrying on the traditions of a Freddie Williams or someone like that, but yeah, they're not afraid to stick a big price on the board and lay something. So, good luck to them doing that.
it was quite funny. One of one of Sky Sports' betting advertisers put out their prices for the race, and their favourite in one race was 24 to 5. So that is or was it 40? Was it 49 to 25? Anyway, it's a price I'd never seen before.
I know
But
what
yeah,
it'll be. I know what it'll be. It'll be 47 to 25.
oh, it's
Was it
something like
47 to 25? You occasionally see it on our site, right? Because it's, I think I probably know what you're talking about. And whenever I see it, it's like, get that price at the price of another name. Yeah, I get enough abuse on Twitter as it is. Get rid of that price quickly. So,
yeah. Ronan
47 to
cuts it to
25.
46 to 25, don't you, Ronan?
Yeah. 23 to 12 and a half. Yeah.
It was funny.
Right,
No,
well,
like I
that'll
said,
do it. Sorry,
yeah.
Tony.
No, I just say, like I said, just reinforce that Gary is very, very good value.
I think just in general, just the ring and the point on the ring is I don't care how people, especially on course bookmakers, right? you have the luxury of just betting within 20, 30 minutes of the off, and especially at a big meeting. I don't care what price you're on, how you derive your price. I think you, especially at a big meeting, you should be when you're laying your own price 20, 30 minutes to the off, you should be laying a good bet, I think, at a big meeting. And I don't care how you come about that price. I have more issue with people saying win only when you're deriving your own price at that stage and stuff like that. So I think most bookies are pretty good, especially at the big meetings. One or two less so.
Very good. Speaking of lights out prices, if you are looking for such, do check out the AK Bets Big Prices tab for all the biggest prices on the biggest events this week. We've got a full slate of Premier League fixtures midweek this week for you to get stuck into, and obviously much more besides that. I was about to say we'll be back this time next week, but I'm not 100% sure we will be on the Monday, the eve of Cheltenham, so that's to be decided.
Yeah, what are we thinking? Tell us in the comments. Should we do a podcast next Monday? Because
Don't.
or should we jack it in as well?
No.
I don't know. What do you think, lads? I'm flying to Bristol or somewhere, or Birmingham or somewhere about 12:30, I think, next Monday. So
I'm not sure if we did one last year because it does get lost in the Cheltenham
could do one
melee.
on the Sunday night. Could do one on the Sunday night and talk about the Tuesday a bit more. But I mean,
You get Harry Stewart Moore's views on the Ultima and take that on as each way good things. So we'll see. That's to be decided. We'll let us know in the comments what you think then. Thanks to the lads for their contributions. Thanks to you for your questions and thanks to you for listening. And we'll talk to you the next time we're back. Cheers.